They have trouble with relationships, and this is throughout their lives when they've experienced this. Trouble with relationships, boundaries, empathy, social isolation. I mean, you can see this in kids around you, you know. Inability to be empathetic with somebody else, you know. And boundaries. You see them crossing boundaries all over the place. So physical health, impaired sensory motor development. Many children that have had trauma have trouble with their breathing, have trouble with asthma, and later have trouble with autoimmune disorders as an adult. They have chronic health problems. It's just amazing what it, the emotional regulation. Difficulty identifying or labeling feelings and communicating needs. I know many adults that can't do that, much less the kids, you know, to be honest. So, I mean, it causes problems with being able to identify what's going on and be able to communicate that. Dissociation. Okay, so altered states of consciousness, amnesia, impaired memory, that's disconnection. I never really knew that for many years, but now being in trauma, maybe I really learned what it meant. So dissociation, when you see kids with that blank stare, you know, like they might be trying to teach them in class, or you might even be talking to them about something that's happened, and you kind of get this, you know, they're dissociating. That's what's happening at that moment. They are disconnecting their brain from their body, and it's really not a purposeful thing. It's their brain is doing it because they are feeling so overwhelmed. Remember, it's an overwhelming event. They're feeling so overwhelmed by that conversation, they're kind of getting disconnected is what happens. So that little guy got a little disconnected. And so cognitive ability, problems with focus. So if you're disconnected, how are you going to focus on that? You know, if you guys are not connected here, if there's chaos going on and there's noise over there and there's stuff over there, are you going to be able to pay attention to what's up on the board or to be able to do that? Because you're not. And especially if you've had any trauma. Problems with focus, learning, processing new information, language development. Most children that are in foster care are behind in their speech. They also have trouble with their eyesight. Many times when they've been neglected, their eyesight, you see problems with asthma, eyesight, and speech. Very frequently, that's why these kids are getting occupational therapy, you know, and there's other kind of things in schools because developmentally they're behind. So what's funny is we've seen this trend where they're giving them these therapies in school, but they're not looking at the root of the problem. They keep giving them therapy. It's like throwing a pill at the problem, but not solving the problem. You know, and that's what you all were talking about, like pills. Somebody was talking about the kids on the meds. I mean, over-medicated ADHD, all of that. And you know why? Because it's easier to throw a pill at this, but the reality of it is it doesn't work. I mean, now sometimes it will help to slow the brain down so that you can actually teach the child something, but it does not solve the root of the problem, which is the trauma. And so it's going to keep coming back. So that's why you see kids on pills for years and years and years. You know, and it really hasn't helped. I mean, it's really only a temporary solution until they can learn the behaviors, but lots of times they're not coupling that with the pill. You know, there needs to be therapy with the doctors so that you can put the two together, you know, but that's not always the way it works. As a matter of fact, most often not the way it works. But maybe you guys can help that child that may be on those pills to learn some of these skills that they need to learn for themselves. So lack of consistent sense of self, body image, low self-esteem, shame and guilt, huge, huge, huge for these kids because they don't even understand that what's going on with them is not their fault. They don't know it's not their fault. Behavioral control. And what are we doing as teachers and as parents? We're telling them, control your behavior. So it makes them feel like it's their fault. You know, you're dysregulated, you need to do this. So they're getting it culturally. Parents and everybody else is telling them to stop the behaviors, but nobody understands that the behaviors are a product of the experiences that they have, and they are not a product of the child trying to develop this behavior, you know. Behavioral control, difficulty controlling impulses, oppositional behavior, what we were just talking about, ODD being overdiagnosed, aggression, disrupted sleep and eating patterns, trauma reenactment. They are reenacting what's going on with them all the time.